Oh, good morning, everybody. Now, I've got myself up at the arse crack of dawn this morning. I set my alarm for about 10 to 5 to get myself up on the Ashdown Forest to get this particular pitch that I wanted. I've come to a spot that's known as the Garden of Eden, and I've walked this area quite a bit, and I've always wanted to get a picture of this particular view at Golden Hour, just because I love it. It's such a pretty place, and the gorse is up right now, so you've got all these beautiful. I don't think you can see. Yeah, you won't be able to see them here right now because all you can see is me. But there's beautiful yellow. I think there must be flowers. I'm assuming it's flowers. It's colourful and it's yellow. But they've all kicked up now because we're in spring. It's April the 6th, I think. We're in spring, so all the gorse is kicked up, and the view's just looking absolutely outstanding. So I was sitting at home last night and I was looking at a bare patch. Sorry, the intention was I've come here this morning to get a picture for my wall at home, which I don't think I said a minute ago, but if I did, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself. But I was looking at a bare patch on my wall at home last night, and I've wanted to get a panorama view of something to put up there. And this come into my mind. I thought, where could I go? Because I couldn't be bothered to drive miles. So this particular spot come into my mind. So I thought I would come up here early doors. Like I say, I set my alarm for 5. I was up here for about 5 to 6, so I could walk in. It's about a 25-minute walk in to get to this particular spot and take this picture. Now, I want to do it in a panorama, to a nice wide view. I think I know the crop I want already, though I will confirm that when I get it back to Lightroom. But I think it's going to be a 6 by 17 crop, so a panorama crop. But what I thought I would do is actually shoot this in the technique of a panorama with my camera and talk you through what it is that I've done, so that I can get the highest detail image that is possible out of my camera. Now I'll get you behind I'll get this up now so you guys can see this on the screen. This is basically the view. There's a path that sort of acts as a leading line that leads up the forest and heads off back towards where Gill's Lap is. And I just think it makes for a really pleasing image. You've got the grass. It would be nicer. I think this would be a good shot as well, August time, when the heather's really kicked up and it's all purple and looking all pretty and beautiful. But it works really well now. Now, I had about half an hour ago, I had some beautiful light, some golden hour light, and it was just, it was casting across the scene. If you can see my finger there, and just creating some beautiful shadows. Shadows. And the light was just lovely. It was much warmer than what it is now. The sun's up quite a bit, and it just it looked lovely. So I will put that picture up at the end. But the reason I want to do it in panorama is because my camera is a 30 megapixel camera, which is quite high megapixel count. But I noticed with my pano shots, when I do my panos, I'll take a picture as that is now, and it's 3:2 crop, and then I'll trim it in for a pano to make like a 6:17, which is like my favourite panorama. And because you're cropping in, you lose detail, you lose megapixels in the image. And well, I didn't want that. I wanted to get as high detail an image as I can with the highest megapixel count, so that I can blow it up a fair size and hang that on my wall. Now, I do plan, this is going to be 2-part, this video, but the second part will be probably in a few weeks' time, because I plan to then, once I've taken this shot, I'm going to talk you through this now. I plan to then talk you through my editing process of the image, and then finally taking it through to print, how I go about editing the photo to get it to a good enough quality so that I can send it off, get it printed, come back and hang up on my wall. But I'll do that probably in a few weeks' time. But for now, I'm going to talk you through this. So the idea is, instead of shooting it like this and limiting myself to 30 megapixels, what I'm going to do, and I'll have to adjust some things, so bear with me, is shoot it in a vertical format, See how easy I can get this to come down to you. Ooh, good. Go on, smart arm. Come on. Twist like that. Yeah, so instead of shooting it in a horizontal format, like a landscape format, as you typically would do with a camera when you walk around and shoot, what I'm actually doing is I'm shooting it in vertical, with the idea being, anyway, apologies, that I don't think I'm going to be able to record the rest of this, because I haven't got the memory. Was that going to record? May well do. iPhone storage full. Oh, well, that's bummed that idea. My iPhone storage is full. I will show. I have got clips of me doing this, so I can show you that as I do it. But the idea is you shoot in a vertical format, and then you pan that across the scene, so that when you get back to Lightroom later on, you can stitch those. So I've taken 5 images. You can stitch those 5 images together, and then instead of your total megapixel count of your image being the 30 megapixels that this camera is, it then actually increases the megapixels, so the quality of that image, to what I've worked out roughly with 5 images, shooting vertical and cutting about 30% of my scene off, or sorry, overlapping about 30% each time, taking 5 images. That then actually totals to an image of about 116 megapixels. So giving me greater detail and greater quality to the image, so that when I cut it in for a panorama, I don't lose as much quality as I would do if I was shooting that in a horizontal format. Now, when I crop it, I will then again lose megapixels, but from what I could calculate last night, that then cuts it down to about either 50 to 60 megapixels. So I should have a higher quality, higher detailed image. Now so it's just, I just want that. That's what I'm after. Better quality. I lose when I shoot in horizontal format, and I then crop in for a panel. I lose detail, and I don't want to lose that detail. I want to maximise the amount of detail I can get. So I shooting it vertical like this, and then sweeping across the scene, overlapping about 30% each time, I can increase the quality. Now, the way in which to do this, there's a few things you want to know. Now, I've used on this an ND graduated filter, just because the sky was so bright when I was taking the image. You can do HDR panoramas, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to capture it all in camera. So I've used a graduated filter, which I've pulled down across the top of the sky, so it takes the brightness of the sky out. And I can just take each image once and stitch that together, and I've got all the dynamic detail that I want, or dynamic range that I want, and also all the detail that I want. The next thing to do is to make sure that you're shooting in manual focus, not in autofocus, because the problem that can arise if you shoot in autofocus is that as you go across and you take each separate image, the camera refocuses. Now, that might be only minor, but that can affect the quality of your image. When you stitch it together, you'll probably notice the difference between those 5 shots, if that makes sense, because this focus will be slightly different each time. So I've used manual focus, that the focus is locked in one position, and as I sweep across and take each picture, they're all focused at the same point, in the same range, and there's not any, how would you put that, loss in detail, or nothing changes throughout that scene. Now, to do this, I've shot this, going back to what I was talking about last week, about using photo pills and depth of field and getting the best quality aperture that I can use. I shot this at f10, and I used photo pills to deduce that, because it told me, as we discussed, how much of my scene I need to be in focus with in relevance to its distance from my lens. f10 was the widest aperture I could get with keeping everything in focus. And then to focus, I've actually just focused on infinity, which in this case is, well, in every case, infinity would be the horizon, which was the trees in the distance. And I've just zoomed in on the back of my camera, twiddled around with the manual focus ring on the lens to get that in focus, come back out and shoot across and take the pictures. And that's it really. There's not much else to talk about. Today, so my ISO is quite high. I've got it at 800, but I'm comfortable with that with this camera. I know that'll be fine. I've had to do that because I'm sure you can hear it's quite windy today, as it has been for a couple of weeks now. And I wanted to freeze the grasses in motion. The problem I was getting with ISO 100 was that my shutter speed would have to be so slow to get the correct exposure that the grasses were actually smearing out on the scene. So I've bumped my ISO up to 800 to give me a shutter speed. I think that was about 1/50th of a second at the time when I took the picture, and that was enough to be able to freeze the grass, which I don't think you can see here now, but to freeze the grass in motion, and or to stop it and keep it sharp in the image. So yeah, I've already taken these pictures. I didn't want to rush this morning. Usually I'd ponce about getting you set up and talk you through it as I'm doing it, but I just didn't want to rush about. I wanted to make sure I got the picture that I wanted, so I'd done all that already and stitched those together. So I'm going to end that there. I just want to keep this video nice and short today, not too long. What is a habit? That's a habit that I have of doing, is waffling on too much, like I am now. But I'll put that image up at the end once I've done and completed it. I'm going to stop recording here. I'm going to stop talking in a sec. But as I say, in a few weeks, I'm going to take you through the editing process to print. And yeah, if you find it interesting. If you don't, then, well, anyway, I'm going to stop waffling. You guys have a nice day, because it's getting quite cold and I want to get home and have a nice cup of tea. So I'll catch you later on.